Roger Federer, the rise to greatness. Hard work and persistence are two ingredients every great sportsman has, and it takes time before they are even called great. While many of these athletes and sportsmen receive their recognitions and accolades long after they have left the scene of their performances, some are brilliant enough to be recognized as maestros even before their careers come to an end, with men like Pelé, Rod Laver, Hakeem Olajuwon, Gary Player, and the likes getting recognized after their run in their various games have been completed. We seem to be in an era where many new greats are dominating their respective sports and leaving their marks in the sands of time, with the likes of LeBron James, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Rafael Nadal, and Roger Federer achieving the status of legends while they live. Talking about Federer, he recently just retired and undoubtedly has left his name in the annals of tennis history. He has had quite a career, breaking and making records, and growing into an example many upcoming tennis players look up to. How did he get to this status? What was the journey like for Roger Federer? Stick with us as we look into the journey of one of the greatest, if not the greatest tennis players of all time. The man Federer. Roger Federer was born in Basel, Switzerland, on August 8, 1981, into a mixed household. His father, Robert Federer, was a Swiss who worked at a pharmaceutical company. Lynette Federer, his mother, was South African, who, at the time of his birth, also worked for a pharmaceutical company. Roger spent his early days in Basel, which houses the oldest university in Switzerland and a couple of museums. As a result, he expected to study or follow some artistic pursuits. Fate had other plans. The game of tennis was not a strange sport to the Federers, but neither of Roger's parents played it professionally. Instead, it was more of a pastime than anything else. His parents noticed his interest and encouraged it. They were also able to use their wealth to help him start toward what would eventually be a life of tennis supremacy. Starting out. Many people who learn about Roger's upbringing consider him to have lived the ideal tennis star life. He started his tennis journey a bit more seriously after he clocked 8 years. At age 8, he secured access to a junior tennis program in Basel, where he began receiving basic tennis training. Federer was an emotional tennis lover, and his emotions swung along with his performance in tennis and with the performance of his childhood tennis idol, Boris Becker. His emotional investment in the game was so high that when Boris Becker lost to Stefan Edberg in the 1988 Wimbledon final, he couldn't stop crying. Beyond tears, he also tended to get angry when he made certain mistakes while playing. At 8, he had yet to commit to tennis alone, as he still had an interest in playing soccer. Eventually, his parents, who noticed his passion, decided to help him get help, and they hired the services of an Australian tennis player, Peter Carter. He was regarded as a tough player, and the Federers thought that was what Roger needed then. Peter Carter was the one who assisted Roger Federer in putting together the pieces of the puzzle, including strategy, psychology, and courtesy. Without these components, playing tennis would continue to be physically and mentally strenuous. Federer's parents noticed the positive impact that coaching could have on their son's physical and emotional demeanor. As a result, they gave their consent for their son to spend most of his time being instructed by Peter Carter. Roger left home at 13 to continue training at top facilities across Switzerland, including the National Training Facility in Koblenz and a new facility in Biel. At this brand new facility, Roger Federer would later become acquainted with Peter Lundgren, his subsequent youth coach. Getting a handle on tennis. It was under Peter Lundgren that Federer began to truly bloom. He learned footwork, powerful shot making, exceptional skill, and even power-packed smashes from Peter, most of which have been ingrained into his game style. He began to gain public attention as he began participating in many team competitions, eventually earning ITF's #1 world ranking as a teenager. He dazzled and dominated the teens division of the Wimbledon junior singles and doubles titles. His coach was unrelenting in ensuring that Federer had a very productive career with many opportunities. In a short time, he had won many titles and gained the interest of an international audience. He was even able to represent his country at the Olympics at the age of 18 alongside the woman who would later become his wife. Struggles along the way. Every great person has had times when life was difficult, and Roger Federer is no exception. However, most great people rarely discuss these times, nor do they often discuss the obstacles they had to overcome on their path to greatness. We have seen some of the challenges he faced emotionally while mastering the sport. Still, it is not the only area in which Roger Federer had to overcome obstacles to be successful. Roger Federer, when he was a child and first got involved in tennis, had to devote approximately 6 hours of his day to training. This would, in some ways, rob him of the childhood experiences that are characteristic of the life of young children his age. Not only was it challenging for him, but as he traveled around the world in pursuit of tennis success, he also struggled with feelings of homesickness. His performance suffered over time due to the effects of this homesickness, particularly when he was in places or surroundings where he could not understand the language. Roger Federer can't help but laugh when he recalls the humiliating loss that came at the end of his very first match. The local tennis association had serious reservations about his abilities after he was beaten by 6-0. 6-0 in his first local match. Instead of allowing his defeat to negatively impact him, he took it as a sign that he needed to work harder on his training, which he did, and it paid off for him. To achieve greatness, Roger Federer had to surmount several significant obstacles, one of which was coming to terms with the passing of his first coach, Peter Carter. While Peter was in the middle of his safari in South Africa, he was involved in a car accident. Federer was taken aback by the information when he heard it. Before his death, Roger had been struggling with dealing with games maturely and maintaining consistency with his exceptional gameplay. However, he was affected by the death of his teacher and mentor, and he decided that to honor the dead, he would be at the top of his game. Since then, he has been a model of composure and excellence as a tennis player right up until the moment he announced his retirement. Roger Federer has had a successful career and is often regarded as one of the players who has managed to stay in the best shape throughout his career. Although he is not known as a player prone to injuries, he has been sidelined for extended periods due to them. Some of these injuries were not very visible, but the ones he sustained later in his career may have impacted his performance as a whole. However, this does not mean that he was completely injury-free prior to the year 2019. In 2007, he suffered a foot injury, which almost certainly affected his performance in 2 different contests where he faced Guillermo Canas as an opponent. The year after that, he suffered a back ailment that led to him having to pull out of a tournament for the very first time in his whole professional career. In 2010, he suffered injuries to his back and leg, yet he could still play, but not at his peak performance. The following year, he had an injury to his groin, and as a result, he could not win any Grand Slam tournaments for the first time in 9 years. Djokovic defeated him in both the Australian Open and the US Open. He has suffered from several additional injuries at various points in time, and all of them have somehow influenced his performance. Rivalry. During his time at the top, Federer had some very interesting competition and rivalry with the likes of Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal. They were recognized as the Trinity of tennis, but he had a much special rivalry with Nadal. Rivals on the court and friends off the court, Nadal and Federer have had over 20 years of rivalry, competing and pushing each other to get better. Many have described their rivalry as the greatest in the history of tennis. They have had 40 games in between them, with Nadal leading with 24 games 1-16. This includes 24 final matches and 14-10 wins, respectively. There are only 3 male players with over 20 Grand Slam singles titles, and Nadal and Roger are 2 of these 3, with 22-20 Grand Slam titles, respectively. The third person with 21 Grand Slams is Novak Djokovic. They are the only 2 tennis players in history to each reach at least 4 Grand Slam finals without dropping a single set, and they have other enviable records between them. Sportsmanship. Roger Federer is often considered the perfect gentleman of sports. His 13 sportsmanship awards testify to this. Roger has earned a reputation as a respectful player and a man of composure. He has hardly been seen getting angry at the umpire or the ball boys. This attitude is consistent on and off the court too. His amazing style of play and his gentlemanliness off the court earned him a lot of respect. At some point in his career, he was considered to be the second most respected individual in the world, behind Nelson Mandela. Family. The year was 2000. 18-year-old Roger Federer and 21-year-old Miroslava Mirka Vavrinic competed at the Sydney 2000 Olympics. Blessed with 4 kids with Mirka Federer, Roger Federer found love before he won his first Grand Slam. Maybe she was his good luck charm. 3 years before Roger had his first taste of the Grand Slam title, he summoned the courage to speak with a fellow tennis star with whom he had been infatuated but shy to talk. He has been married to his wife for 13 years now, and he has been blessed with 2 sets of twins. While Mirka retired from professional tennis in 2002 after a consistent foot injury, she assumed the role of her husband's PR manager and has been firmly behind him for the past 20 years. Roger Federer also has an elder sister, Diana, who was also instrumental in encouraging him at a young age. She also has a set of twins. Retirement. Retiring with the record of the longest consecutive reign on top of the Pepperstone ATP, Federer spent 237 consecutive weeks at world number 1. He is behind Djokovic in all-time as number 1. He has won 103 tour-level titles, lifted 20 Grand Slam trophies, and has the record of being the only player ever to win 3 different tournaments at least 5 times. He is one of just 4 athletes who have triumphed in a career Grand Slam on clay, hard, and grass courts. Even though he no longer holds the record for most Grand Slams, he holds the record for the first to get to 20 Grand Slams. In addition, he is the first player in the history of the sport to compete in all 4 Grand Slam tournaments in each of the calendar years 2006 and 2007, and he is the only player to ever accomplish this feat thrice. For a man so decorated, he has impacted the tennis world, both on and off the court. He was widely regarded as the face of tennis, and the game itself would feel his retirement. Legacy. Roger has an incredible legacy. With over 2 decades of performing at the pinnacle of world tennis, he has won so many tournaments and achieved so many accolades. He is, without doubt, one of the greatest to ever serve on the court. He has a thriving family and has had his fair share of struggles and hardships during his time in the game. We hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe for more inspiring stories.